us. And I noticed that he said that privately because these other people were listening currently at the time. Now it gets into this parable. It says, "And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" I find it funny because it points this man out as being a lawyer. Now, how many of you know what a lawyer is? It's somebody that knows the law. Amen. A Pharisee, somebody that knew the law to a T. It uses the term lawyer to imply that vast amount of knowledge that he did have. And he said unto him, "What is written in the law? How readest thou?" I love this passage because Jesus knows the answer. He is the answer, by the way. But he knew the answer to this particular question. And he didn't answer him right away. He directed him to the scriptures. Now us, as Christians, what does that tell us? That when we have a question, more likely than not, it's in this word. There's nothing new under the sun. Amen. That the same problems we had yesterday or thousands of years ago, we have today. And the answer is always the same: Jesus.
Yes.
Man, if we would only look and see the word. See, that's our strength. That's our sword. That's how we defend ourselves. That's how we fight back. That's how we combat the enemy. Is the word. That is our sword.
Yes.
If you don't know the word, you're defenseless. The Bible would speak as, what is the terminology I'm looking for? A seed that's on stony ground or on shallow ground.
Yes.
It's able to grow, but it has no roots. And when that storm comes through, it's toppled over and it's taken out. That's powerful. So in order for us to weather that storm, we gotta dig in. We gotta grow our roots down in the Word so that we're able to withstand that storm. Amen. It says, "And he turned him and his disciples," the 25th verse. "And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" And again, the choice of words that are used here, tempted, meaning his intentions weren't good to begin with. He says, "And he said unto him, What is written in the law? How readest thou?" And he answered, said, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbors as thyself." Meaning he knew the answer to this question. He just answered it. He just wanted to tempt Jesus to see if he knew it, because he was one that knew the law, and he sought to see himself be esteemed higher than Christ. See, why would he do this in this particular situation? Well, because of the people. That he was with all of them. He sought to make a name for himself in the midst of them. Amen. And it goes on and says, "And he said unto him, Thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, And who is my neighbor?" Amen. If he would have just left it alone, he would have been much better off. But he had to be proud. He had to show everybody how much that he knew. Amen. So Jesus answered and said, "A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves and was stripped of his raiment and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead." Again, this is just a parable of somebody coming down from Jerusalem. Now that's symbolic. Jerusalem representing the holy city. And they're on their way down. That could represent many things. Though I'm sure it physically represented something here as a man coming down and getting beaten up and robbed. But it can also represent somebody in their spiritual walk, that isn't quite reading as much as they used to. Isn't quite praying as much as they used to, and they begin that descent. Because it does say it was a descent down into Jericho. And in that time where we're not reading, or we're not fasting, or we're not praying, it's when we're weak. And when we are weak, that's when we get attacked. Because it says in the Word that when the Lord rises his enemies first, so if the Lord,
Right.
Amen. If the Lord is dominant in our life and he's prevalent in a mighty way, amen. If the Lord is dominant and present in our lives in a mighty way, amen. I don't know what the problem is. If the Lord is prevalent and dominant in our lives in a mighty way, I don't know what to do.
You might have to unplug it.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, I guess I'm not
Shut that mic off and use the other one.
Okay. Is that better?
No,